Hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome to Watercolor Wednesday. I am just thrilled to be here with my people. So, welcome, everyone. Please get on and say hi to me because I just love saying hi to you and where you're from. So, tell me where you're from. And I see a bunch of you are on already. So good. Margaret from Ohio, hello. Sharon from Georgia, good to have you on with me. Julie, good morning. Ruth Ann, hello. Hello, Ruth Ann. Kathy is on. Samantha, hello from North Georgia. Okay. Suska, good morning. Lori, good morning. From Gilbert, hello. Yes, Gilbert is just probably absolutely sunny and beautiful today. It's sunny here. So it's not as warm as Gilbert, I'm sure, but it's sunny here. So we are loving the sun. We've had days of rain and it feels really, really good. Something about the sun, you guys, I don't know, the older I get, it just affects me so much. When I go out and I see the sun, it does something. It does something to me. It changes my mood. It just makes me feel happy. So when it's sunny here, I just love it. I appreciate it so much. Um, okay, Linda from Chile, Wisconsin. Okay, I bet it's freezing. Jane, good morning. Good morning, Jane. Andrea, hello. Glad to see you on here. Hello, Ellen and Simone. And Diana, how are you feeling? Diana has been sick and just been praying for her. How are you feeling, Diana? Give us an update. Kathy, hello from freezing Kentucky. Yep, Kathy is in the freezing cold too. Carol, hello, good morning. Hello. Cindy, hello. Gosh, you guys, so good to see you on here. I love it. Love Watercolor Wednesday. Love being on here with all of you. I have a really fun project today too because it's kind of fun to switch up now. So we've been in Christmas, for weeks and weeks. And Christmas is that, time of the year that we always start so early. And so by the time it's over, it's kind of fun to get back to something else. And, so I was thinking about what to do today. And of course, Valentine's Day is just around the corner and we know how fast time flies. So, I mean, it's still early January, but honestly, it's only a few weeks away. So I thought it would be really fun to do something with red and, whites. So that's what we're doing today. We're doing some reds and whites. And, it's a project that isn't specifically to Valentine's Day. So the thing about Valentine's Day is, it's pinks and reds, it's that color theme. But the project today can be switched out just by the colors that you pick. So those are my favorite projects to do. And especially if I have a theme in mind or a season in mind, that we can switch it out and change it to another season really, really easily. So I love this project because of that. Well, you'll be able to switch it up and change the season really easily just by the colors. So obviously it looks Valentine's because it's red. Lots of red and white. But you could easily change it up to other colors and just make it really, really fun for spring. Just flowers. It's just really fun to do flowers. And of course, I got to use my white paint, which, that's just a win-win. A win-win for me if I can use my white paint. So let me keep saying hi to all of you. Cindy from Kansas, hello. Good to have you on. Carolyn from Louisiana. Hello, Roberta. I bet it's chilly in Florida. I mean, chilly for you guys in Florida. Peggy, hello, from just, our neighbor Peggy. She's not far from us. Marilyn, hello, good morning. Zilla, hello. Hello, Mary from Illinois. And Patty from Idaho Falls. Wow, I bet you're in some cold weather too. Idaho Falls, I believe, is probably pretty cold right now. From Michigan. Okay. Is it so her name on here is So Prissy. What is your first name so I can say hi to you? Ruth Ann is in. Okay, she's saying, I see you. First time I've seen you in black. Actually, it's green. It's green, but you know what? I've been wearing these lighter colors just because it shows up better with the background and with the lighting. So today I just grabbed this one and thought, okay, you know what? It's green, so maybe it'll kind of go with the background better. But thank you for noticing. Middle of a snowstorm. Oh my word. London, Ontario. Oh my goodness. Stay inside, Marianne. Just stay inside. Leilani from Seattle. Hello. Carol, cold Missouri. Oh my goodness, you guys. It's just the weather is just crazy. How many people are on here from California, Southern California? My goodness, we've just been watching the news from one extreme to the next, from the cold, cold, freezing weather in the Midwest and the East, and now what's happening in California. Just absolutely heartbreaking. These people who are losing their homes to these massive fires and wind. Just unbelievable. So, so sorry. We are praying for all of you and what this is happening, what this means. I can't imagine. Just unbelievable. So you are in our prayers. Jeannie, hello. Central Ohio. Hello. Margaret from Maine. No snow yet, but cold. Debbie from Oklahoma. Susan from Virginia. Hello. Diane Mason. Hello, Diane. Hello, Diane from California. Okay, where in California, Diane? You aren't close to those fires, are you? I know California is a huge state, but you know, when it's something like this, you want to know that everybody is okay. Hello to Cherie. Good morning, Mary and Terry. Hello. Mary, hello, Diana again. She says, thanks for asking. Actually feeling a little bit better today. Was able to get a good night's sleep last night, which helped. Oh, such good news, Diana. So glad to hear that. Glad you're on with us. Just rest in your easy chair. Just rest and just, be with us. Kristen, hello. Debbie from Maryland. We have a foot of snow. Oh my goodness. Wow. Lisa, good morning. Lori, it's cold and cloudy and windy. Going to be cold all week. Glad to hear. I'm glad to have some winter weather. Get to wear my Uggs. Okay, well, that's looking on the bright side of things. Get those Uggs out is right. We can get our sweatshirts out now, huh? Hello, Linda from Florida. Good to have you on. And Debbie, hello. Elaine from Albany, just a half hour from us. Marianne, she is in the middle of a snow. Oh yes, in Ontario. Unbelievable. Chris, hello from Indiana. Janice, good morning. Good morning, Janice. Terry, good to be on with all of you. Cheryl Cranston from Kirkland. Good to have you on. Chilly, Florida. Tony, hello. Hello, Tony. Sandy, chilly in Florida. It just must be chilly in Florida. What is chilly for you guys? Like 70? Or is chilly like down to, 50? Down to 50. Cold Tennessee. Oh my goodness, I bet. Oh my word. Good to have all of you on here, you guys. Yes, Patty, very sad about California. Karen from Texas. You guys are getting snow? She says possible snow in Texas, but we need rain. So many homes have been lost. Yep. Just absolutely devastating. Julie, driving home from Merced and listening to you in the car. Southern California is on fire right now. Prayers for everyone's safety. Yes, absolutely. Just absolutely unbelievable. It's hard to, put your phone away when these things are going on because you want updates. And you want to know that everyone is safely out of their homes. That everyone is safe and away from these fires. With these winds, we know that things can change in seconds. And, just with the, these winds down there, the Santa Ana winds, and it's just blowing like crazy. And so it's so unstable when that's happening. So it's hard to, it's hard to put your phone down, hard to, walk away from the TV when you're watching these things. Sheila, hello. Excited to catch a live with you. Miss you at Arizona in-person events. I know, Sheila. We miss being down there. That was always one of my favorite shows because of the weather. Any excuse to go to Arizona and just see the sun. I love that. And just the nicest people. Just the nicest people at these shows. I think that's what I miss the most is being in that booth and demoing and talking to people and hearing their stories and just the kindest, warmest people that are in this industry. I really miss that part. Marianne says, thank you for posting a picture of supplies. Yes, you guys. Okay, so now, when we have these days where there's no new releases, and I can go back to some of these older sets. And I love to do that because I know that I don't get enough time when things are released. I never get enough time to really go through everything. So when I can go back and pull something up from, previous releases, I love to do that, and I love for you to follow along. So it's really, really nice during those, especially those times where I'm using mostly things that have been released already, and you can go look through what you have. And if you don't have what I'm using exactly, there are so many substitutions that you can do. And always keep in mind, I'm just giving you the idea. I'm giving you the idea, and you change it up according to what you have in your stash. You just change it up according to what you have and what you can use. So you are so welcome. Oh my goodness, Roberta says it'll be 30 tonight in Orlando. Wow, that's unusual, I bet. Cold for us is minus 20 Celsius. Okay, what is that, Marianne? What is that in Fahrenheit? Diane, San Francisco Bay Area. Okay, good. Good to know. All right, everyone. Let's get going. Teresa, Northern California, good to hear that you are not down in those fires. Catherine, so nice to make a live. I know, I love it. And you know what? It's archived on there, but there's something about being on live, you guys, and being able to see you in the comments. And that's just how I feel, is when you send me a comment and message me or ask me a question or tell me hi, I just feel like you're in the room with me. So it's so cool. And now when I have to record a project, feels so different. It feels so different when I record something as opposed to going live now. It just feels like I'm just all alone, my lonesome, with the camera filming. And I am. Teresa says, love Wednesday lives. Me too. It's just so much fun. And this whole technique is so much fun. And I love watching you guys, and I love seeing your work. I stalk these, Art Impressions fan pages. They're not our official page. They are monitored by private people, but they are absolutely great. The Art Impressions Way and the Art Impressions Stamp Group. So they are on Facebook, and if you haven't joined one of those, I would just encourage you to do that. People who post on there are the kindest, warmest, most encouraging people, and wow, are they talented. If you like watercolor and you haven't joined one of these groups, they post a lot of watercolor, and I love to get on there, stalk these pages, and I love to get on there and just see what everybody is posting and these projects that you're doing. So I'm so impressed with your progress, you guys. I just feel, it makes me feel so good that you are learning and you're progressing and you're making it your own, which is what I want to see. I love to see you make it your own. You will have your own style. It will come out, and you'll be really encouraged by that, because you're watching these tutorials, maybe doing these projects that I'm doing the way I'm showing you, but the more that you do it and the more confident you get, you will change them up and you'll make them your own, and then you'll see your own style come out. So, all right, everyone. Okay, and Kathy just posted a link to theirs. Kathy and Ruth Ann, they are the admins for the Art Impressions Way, and she just posted her link. And then Carla, if you're on, or somebody that is in that group, the Art Impressions Stamp Group, post your link too if you're on here. Okay, you guys. Dominique, hello from Miami. Good to have you on. She says, Happy New Year, everyone, from inside a restaurant. I do that a lot too. I watch things, when I'm somewhere else. I just watch a lot of things without the sound on. So I get it. Okay, Terry says, yes, learn so much from the AI group. Right. So they are also really good about posting what they're using, tricks that they know, things that they've learned, their own take on different projects. And it's really encouraging for people, because there's posts on there every day. people posting projects that they've done. And if you post something so encouraging and helpful, if you ask for critique or you ask for suggestions, they jump in and do that in a really encouraging way. So it's just great. Okay, so Julie is on. Do we have any dates on the Bible retreat? Yes, Jelena. Okay, so we will be ready to accept registrations from those next week, and we will have final information on that. So those of you who don't know, we are doing a Bible retreat, Bible journaling retreat in June, and it will be the middle of June. It'll be at a hotel in Oregon. So really excited about that. It'll be a 2-day retreat, and we will have information on that next week on Watercolor Wednesday, and then again on Bible journaling, which is the first and third Tuesdays of the month. And I'm on at 8 a.m. Pacific time, so you're welcome to join us on those lives also. But we're going to do a retreat this year, our first one with Bible journaling. So stay tuned for that information. If you have subscribed to our email, you will get information on that as well. And we'll keep you updated on all of that information. So we're doing it. It's going to be middle of June, and we will have all that information for you next week. Okay, thank you for asking that. Okay, hello to all of you. Let's get to our project. I'm going to switch over now to the project, and you can see what all we're using here. So this is one of those projects that I am just using a ton of things, and I just kept pulling out things that I haven't used for a while. And I just, we've got a really fun, super busy little project, but this was so much fun to do. And this is what I mean about changing it up. So let me just zoom on this really quick. Because you can see that it's very Valentine's-ish. Because of the red and white, you could also change it up and do it with pink and white, which would be really cute. You could add some pink in here too. And then I added a little heart balloon on here that I just kind of popped out. Added a little string kind of hanging down. I'm going to show you a different way now to do that also. If you don't have, I just used a little heart die that I had, but if you don't have a heart die, I'll show you how you can do it with a circle die also. So we're going to do this big, busy, fun floral foreground. Wow, that was a mouthful. Floral foreground. Say that fast 3 times. And but you can switch it up. So think about these little white flowers with maybe yellow flowers in the background, or blue flowers, or purple flowers. Changing the color of the roof on the house. You can change this whole thing up so much. You could also make it fall with all kinds of oranges and reds. So I love this whole composition because of that. Because it'll be easy to switch up and do something different. So because Valentine's is just around the corner, I thought it would be fun to do something with the red and white. But always keep that in mind when you're doing these projects, that you can easily switch them up. All right, so let me set this aside and let me tell you what we're going to be using here. And if you kind of got on early, you could see what pens we're using right here. I'll just leave them on there for another second if you want to do a screenshot. These are the pens that we're using. And then let me set these aside for now. Also, we're going to need Post-it tape and the white paint, the magic white paint. We're going to be using that. And then let me set this aside, some foam dots so that you can pop up your little balloon. And then let me show you what we're going to be using here. So this is the first set. It's the Mini Cottages set, and I chose this one. But these are all very similar in size, and you could use any of them. So when I use a little structure like this in the background, it can be switched out so easily. How cute would this be for a wedding card? Especially if you're using a lot of the whites in the background or in the foreground. You could put a little church here, and I just think that would be so cute. That's what I was thinking when I was making it. Oh, a little church here would be so cute for a wedding, a spring wedding. But any of these little structures, you could put a little barn back here, or you could just leave it with the trees and the little fence in the background. That would also be so cute. So always keep that in mind. Easy to switch out. If you don't have this set and this specific stamp, switch it out with something else that you have. Another little structure that you have. I also used the little tree set So these two tree sets, and what I did was I used this little one right here. I haven't used these in so long. Other than the Christmas, for Christmas I use these. But I used this one, and then I use these leaves from this tree set. Now, if you don't have those, you can use these little leaves right here. You can use any. I just picked them because I haven't used them in a long time, and I just really love these little leaves. These are just they're so quick and easy. They create this little leafy look, and these trees that are kind of in the background, so they're really in the middle ground is what they are. And you don't see specifically the shape of the leaf, but you still want to see some contrast and a little bit of this shape of the leaves in the background. So it's not, it still gives you a little bit of the texture of the leaf, and this is sort of a middle ground tree. Okay, so that's why I picked this. But again, if you don't have these sets, you can use whatever that you have. All right, now for this one, we're using the foliages in here. We're going to use this one. This one is just the one that kind of hangs down here in the foreground. So these two, we're going to use this. And then this little foliage right here. This is what we put in, this little shrubbery and all these little details in here is with these small ones. And just the tips. That's all we use is the tips of these. We need a long stem. So I picked this one. I haven't used this in a while. I picked this long stem, and you can see that it kind of extends into the light areas. And so you want to kind of be careful about that when you're doing the long stems, is that you've got a light background. You could use a green, but you want to make it really light. And it's always better to kind of fade that out before you get into all this color, so that you can come in with these long stems and really pop this color. You can see this one is kind of stamped where this walkway is. These are stamped in the light color, so they don't get lost. They don't get lost in there. So we're going to be using this one. And then we're also using this one. And this one has a lot of definition. And there's two in here. So you can use either one. This one kind of goes to the right. This one goes to the left. Let's see, which one am I using here? I'm using the one that goes to the left. So this one right here. These have a lot of texture, and I'm only using the blooms on these. So not the stems. We don't need the stems because we're just putting in these pockets of color in here, and we're just stamping just all over the place. This is one of those projects where you really have to trust the process, because it will look like a mess before it's finished and look amazing. So it'll go from an absolute mess to absolutely amazing in about 10 minutes. So don't give up on that. But you need something that will hold a lot of ink when you're stamping over the top of color like this. And these work great for that because they do have a lot of texture. You can still see the definition of the flower, but they're very they will stamp very dark, as opposed to something like this. This would not work in this situation because you're only going to get the outline. It's going to get lost in all of this. So that's why I try to include both into these sets, because there's a place for these and there's a place for these. So in this case, we need these that have a lot of definition and that are going to hold a lot of color. And that's what we're going to put in all into this area over here. All right, so then we're going to go back to our two, basic sets. And, the majority of time, I'm going to use these unless it's, unless it's Christmas. But I use this one a lot, and especially this. This is a go-to in so many different ways. And this is the background red that we're going to put in. We need some sort of background that gives us the dimension of the wildflowers going back into the distance. So we need to kind of fill this up, but we need multiple colors in here. So we're going to be using this one right here. And then in here, the larger vine. So this is identical to that little tiny one that we're using in the background, but we need these large ones in the foreground. So small things in the background, large things as we come forward. And then the grass. We're going to be using a little bit of this grass to kind of just add it in here and there. Excuse me. And then we need some sort of tall grass like this. This is the set that I'm using, and I'm actually using the one that kind of leans to the left, but you can also use this one and lean it to the right. I see everything going this direction. So the way that my brain is, my eye sees everything kind of going this way. So a lot of times I will pick things that move this way. And so that's why I picked this one, but you can use this one as well. You can also use any of these vines in this. So it doesn't have to be anything specific, because we're just filling in with foliage is what we're doing. We're filling it in, and then we're going to add the red to it, and then at the very end we're going to add the white, and the white will sort of bring everything together. So you never have to worry about this coming together. If you're using the white paint, it will. It absolutely will. All right. And then one more, and that is these tiny, tiny little dots right here that we're going to put in the background. So we're going to carry these red florals, and we're going to bring them back to the background next to the little house here and kind of out in the background. So we're going to be using these, these little things. All right. And that's it, you guys. That's all it's going to take to make this. We're also going to, use a little circle, and I just cut this out of watercolor paper, and I'm going to use this then instead of the little heart. So if you don't have a little heart die and you want to make a Valentine's balloon, you can do it with a circle. Of course, I'm going to show you that. And also, how cute would this be as a birthday card? When you add a balloon to something, it's immediately a celebration. So for whatever occasion, it's a celebration. So it could be a birthday for sure. And that changes everything on the card. So when you go to put this on the card, regardless of what's on here, if you put a little balloon on it, it's an event, it's a holiday, it's a celebration. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to change this out, and it's going to be really cute. All right, so let's get going here. So here is my project, and all I pre-stamped was the little house, and I used two colors again. You guys can probably tell me on here what they are without even looking. The 969, the 565. So I just inked the whole thing with this one first, 960 or 565, and then right over the top I inked it again with the 969. So a combination of colors, stamped it off twice. This is a rubber stamp, and when it's a rubber stamp, it will hold on to the color. So I stamped it off twice, and then I stamped it onto my canvas like this. And then I used my little plexiglass from my stamp positioner. I just used this. This is a great size, and I use this a lot. And what I really like about it is that it's clear. So I can kind of I can stamp my little house, and then I can kind of place this over it and just see, okay, that's a good location for this little house. And it's actually just under, I think it's probably about an inch from the top. So let's look. Really close to an inch, probably like 7/8 of an inch is the distance of this, and pretty much right in the middle of the rectangle. So just, I can kind of position it. And then what I did was I just traced around it with a pencil. So I just held it in place, traced around it, and now I have my boundary as to where I'm going to be placing my image. So now the next step is to block it off. So we want to block it off because we don't want to stamp on the outside of the line. So we want to see this little border that goes all the way around like this. And we get that just by covering the outside edge with Post-it tape. So we'll just use this. This tape is pretty inexpensive, and it will last forever, especially if you reuse these. So you can use them over and over again. And then just put this on. We're gonna erase the pencil lines when we're finished, and then you won't see that. So you can see on here that we have this really nice border, and it sort of finishes it off. And you can see on this card that I mounted it. Here's the other thing about this size. This is a really nice size for an A2 card. This is an A2 card. And if you want to fill up the card a little bit more, you don't need to make a bigger image. You just want to back it on something. And this is just a really good trick because it kind of finishes your project, and it's watercolor paper on it. So do your project, leave your little border, and then back it onto a larger piece of watercolor paper. And it will give you this three-dimensional effect and make your project look finished. And it also kind of creates a frame. And it's just the perfect size. I mean, in my opinion, it's the perfect size to fit on an A2 card. And it's not overwhelming. You know, when you're doing projects like this, they can be overwhelming, especially if you don't block them in to a specific place, because you don't know where to end the flowers. You don't know where to end the fence. Where do these come from? You know, up here. But when you have this box and it's all blocked in, you can do these things that sort of come out at the side from the side, and it doesn't matter where they come from. So it's just a really good, a much easier way to do a complex project like this one. And it's a good size. If it gets too big, it's a little hard to keep the dimension and give that impression of the foreground and the middle ground and the background. It's just a little harder to do that. But when you keep it into something this size, it works much better. So let me just tell you, in case you don't have the positioner, let me tell you what this size is. So this is 3.5 by 2.5, 2.5 by 3.5. It's a really, really nice size to use for this. And I think it's just perfect for an A2 card. So let's finish up here, because, you know, I get distracted, you guys, and then I lose my train of thought. And then I count on you to remind me about things. So this will be no different. I will count on you to remind me of if I forget something. So I'm going to see if I can keep this in the frame, of course. See if I can do that and zoom in so that you guys can see close up, because some of these things are, you know, they're pretty small. Good morning, Kathy, from snow-covered Missouri. Oh my goodness. Good morning from Grants Pass. Okay, Sandy. Good to have you on. Christy, thank you so much. This is just the funnest thing to do. And you know what? The great thing about it is you don't have to be an artist. You do not have to be an artist. Catherine says, oh, she's talking about mirror images, stamping on mirror images. Yes, and I actually saw that one too, Catherine. Great tutorial about how to stamp on mirror images. And I don't know if she's done one recently, but the ones I've seen are from a while ago. So if somebody knows if she's done one recently, let Catherine know about that. Okay, everyone, let's get going here. So we're going to start out with the little house, and I've got my water handy and my brush. So I'm using my number 4 brush, and we're just going to start out by coloring this little house. Now, I added a little detail to it to just kind of change it up. This is so simple to do, and it doesn't add a lot of dimension to it. And you can do that really, really easily. So you just want to take your pencil and you want to make just a little slanted line to the side, just from where this little gable is right here. And just kind of bring it down a little bit, and then just bring it across just like this. And then just put a line, just continue this line right here. All the way over like that. Now it looks like my line is a little bit crooked, but you know what? I have a hard time drawing things straight, you guys. So I don't know if you do, but I have a hard time with straight lines. That's why I use rulers. I use rulers for everything. All right, and that's it. That's all you have to do. So a couple little slanted lines, and now we've got this little overhang over the door, and it's so cute, and it adds a little bit more dimension to this little house. All right, so I'm gonna get my palette now, And get my palette in here and see if I can get that in here. Okay, great. So we're gonna add some color now to this little house. So this is the 856 red, and we're gonna just put this on here. And this is the 856. And you know, we don't need very many colors with this project, just red, mostly red. And that's the red that I'm using, that 856. But again, you can use whatever red you want or whatever color you want. So I'm just gonna start out by putting this color on and just try to leave a bit of a highlight on the top of the roof. Just a little bit of a highlight. And I probably should get my small brush. I think I will. So I'm going to switch over to my little brush. And this one is a 1, but you could use a 1 or a 0. And I'll just switch over to this. And so much easier to get into these tiny little spaces. And we're just brushing the color on. And then we'll take some more of this red and do our little overhang. And you can do this on any little structure. Any one, just to change it up a little bit. Isn't that cute? And let's just get a little more color on here, kind of at the top. And with red, you need to go over it a couple of times because you can't get that, you know, really saturated dark color unless you go over it multiple times. And then we've got this side here. And I just, you know what, don't let these things intimidate you, you guys. Just try it. You'll be surprised. You'll be surprised at how well it turns out. Sometimes it just feels like, you know, I can't do it. It looks too hard. This project looks too hard. And if you just break it down and just do one thing at a time, you'll be surprised how well it turns out. And again, trust the process on some of these because they don't look like they're coming together sometimes, and they do. They really will. And especially these wildflowers, you know, these projects that have the wildflowers in the foreground. They take a bit to look like they're working. So don't give up. Hello, Shelly. Welcome. No pulling color out of the lines. You know what, Terry? I'm going to down here on this part, but because this is so dark up here, this red, I really don't need to, but I am going to on this bottom part here, and especially on the side because this is the shady side over here. So we're going to just pull out some of this color and drag it out here and then up here. And I always like to kind of muddy up a white structure anyway, so that it's not just pure white. Get the little chimney, gets a little bit of color on there. All right, so now let's go on and let's do the little window treatments here. So we're gonna use the little twin tone, and I'm just using the dark brown just to kind of make it pop. And I'm just gonna put in the little window panes. And you don't have to worry about these being perfect. And I know easier said than done, but honestly, I don't know if I've ever done windows perfectly. I don't think I ever have. Not all of them. For sure not all of them. I always, you know, mess up one or two and don't get them even. If you really, really mess them up, you can use your white paint and add the little center lines again. And these little narrow windows on the side, you really don't have to do a lot to them, just some kind of, you know, simple detail. But these on the side, these are just pretty much straight lines because this is the angle that you would be looking at, and you're not going to see the window panes the same as you would on the front of the house. And then I'm just going to go under here and just get this a little bit darker where this door is, and also here underneath this little eave, and here underneath this one also. And just really kind of darken that. You can see it kind of just makes it pop. And then I'm going to use my small brush again and add some blue to my palette. So this is the 565 blue. $5.65. Yes, Mary, yes, be sure to comment in here if you want to win this project. So we're going to be doing a giveaway, and you might be the winner. So we'll draw names. So if you're interested, just comment that you would like to be in the drawing, and you will. So I'm adding some blue in here now for the shady side of the little structure. And you can see how that just pushes that part of the house back into the background. Any more questions? Let's see. Yes, Consuelo, good point. You can make the heart balloon with number 5491. Yep, the front porch party. Yes, absolutely. Yep. Okay, and I'm going to just make this even darker on this side. When you're doing these shady sides like this, make sure that the line on the side of the house is straight. So don't encroach over onto the white side. Just make sure that that divider line is straight, really straight. Okay, and then we're going to take some of this blue and we're just going to put in this dark shadow in the overhang, and see how that just also just changes everything. And I'm going to put some a little bit of brown now on my palette, and this is the 969. And I'm going to just take a little bit of this brown and use it on the door. So you can see I just need a tiny little bit of this color. And then we'll just put some on the chimney as well. Okay, coming together. And then we want to add the little shadow in here because this sets the door back. This is another really important thing to do. And it just takes a minute to do it, but put a little shadow up under here. And you can see what that does. It pushes that door back inside. So it's not just flush with the side of the house. All right, and I'm going to use my twin tone now and just put this little doorknob back in. And maybe I'll just put some details on this little chimney too. A few little bricks on there. Okay, and we've got our little house done. See how easy that was? Just so easy. All right, so now we're going to do the background, and I'm going to add some color to my palette, some green. And let me just, maybe I can just do this here and bring this over. So I'm going to add some green next to my blue. I'm going to go back to my bigger brush, and before I do that, I'm going to kind of pencil in what I want in the background. And so you can see I've kind of got these little, hills or, small little mountains in the background, and they're kind of a blend of the blue and green. And that's a really easy thing to do. So we're going to just kind of make, these little mountain areas. And then we're going to just bring this also down. Maybe we'll just come down along like this. And we can just kind of pencil in the background just like that. And then of course up here, up in the top, this is where our sky will be. And so we'll just start by putting all of that in. And we want to get that in before we put all the foliage and the trees and everything in, because we're going to stamp right over the top of that. All right, so we're going to add some of this blue just kind of along the edge of these little mountains here. And while that's still wet, we're going to just add a little green to it. And just kind of let those colors kind of blend together. You can see that it just kind of creates a really nice little effect in the background. And then let's put some of this blue into the sky. And, you know, we're just going to kind of brush it in. And I'm just going to leave a little white area above the background so that it kind of looks like a cloud layer, just kind of in the background. We can just go maybe a little bit darker in some areas. And so we've got our little clouds going. Okay? So now we need to just do this part here. And we're going to do that really light. We're going to use the same green. And did I tell you what green that was? That is the 249, the cool green. But honestly, these are the two greens I'm using, and you can use them interchangeably. So whichever one. I picked the cool green because it has a nice effect with the blue, and you can see that it has a lot of blue in it as opposed to this one. This is the other green. This is the 177 green, and it's a much more it's a warmer color. It's got more yellow in it than this one. This one is bluer, and so it works really well with these little mountains in the background to kind of create that look. And then we're going to do this really, really light in here, this really pretty green. And we'll just put this in, kind of like this. And this is just a guideline. You know, you don't necessarily have to follow it exactly, but it's just to help you kind of see where the background is going to be. And I'm just going to kind of bring this color all the way around. Got a little path in here. And then we'll add our trees and all of that in here. But you can see it's just starting to look like a little watercolor. It's cute just like it is. It honestly. The color of the green is 249. 249. Let me just write it on here. Let's see if it can show. So 249. And then this is the 177 green. And again, they're really interchangeable. You can just use them however. Okay, so in this one, I use the yellow in between. And in this case, I'm going to leave the yellow out and show you how to leave this really, really light in here so you can see the contrast of the two, because it's really important to keep this middle ground light when you're putting in these long stems. And I just want you to see the difference by putting in a light color like the yellow and then leaving it white. And you know, the only difference is that you're going to just add the color in here right now. That's the only difference. And in this case, we're just going to gradually just bring a little of this color down and just leave it just like this, just super light like that. And we're just going to leave it like that. Okay, so now let's start by putting in the background. Let's get our background in, our little florals in, and then we'll tackle the foreground. Okay, so let's do, and let's not change up the colors. So let's just do a contrast here. So the technique is going to be the exact same, but we're going to change the colors up a little bit so that you can see the difference. All right, so we're going to do these little shrubs in the background. And I'm just using about half of the stamp, just about half. And I'm just going to kind of start by stamping it in just on top of itself. Same over here in this section, just on top of itself, just like that. Just keep stamping it. And then let's just do another one, maybe kind of over here. And the reason I want to get enough color in here is because I want to put that little fence in. And to do the white fence like this, you want to be able to, you know, really see it with the background color. All right, do you see the difference in the greens? So you can see this is just a totally different look by having the cool green in here. And it's just going to be your preference. Just, you know, which way you like it best. And then we're going to just touch these little areas because we want to see some of the texture in here. We don't want it to just be a blob. You know, and if you use too much water on here or you mix it around with a brush stroke, you're going to get a circle and you're going to lose the definition of the stamp. Okay, so now let's put in the tree in the background. And, you know, you can kind of just, you know, put it in here. You could use a positioner, you know, if you wanted to. I'm just going to guess. It doesn't really, you know, matter that it's in the exact right place, you know, or the exact same as this. I can kind of guess and see where it's going to go. And I just use the dark brown to ink it. Just the dark brown, the 969. And I'm just going to stamp it in here, probably just a little bit taller, maybe just right in here. And I left part of it off. So I didn't need this whole big tree. I just wanted to kind of make it a little narrower in here. And so I didn't ink the whole thing. You can see I left this whole section off right here, which is just such a great thing to do. You also don't need the whole trunk. You could do a much smaller tree just by inking this part and leaving the rest of it off. Hello, Cecilia. Hello from Connecticut. Good to have you on. Good to have you on. Okay, so now we're going to just color in this little tree trunk with just pulling this brown out. And then we're going to add a little bit more to it. Like so. And it's okay to stamp over these colors because we're going to get a dark enough color on here that it's not going to be a problem at all. So let's add our leaves to it. And that is this little stamp right here. And we're just going to ink it. And again, you could ink it with whatever green that you want. Let's just use this one again. So this is the 249. And then you could look at the difference and decide, you know, which one you like better. So this thing, it just works like a charm. You're just going to stamp it on top of itself. And you can kind of turn it if you want to. But it just creates a really nice leafy tree. And then, you know, you're just going to touch all of these little areas. Just touch them. And it's okay for that brown in the branches to kind of bleed in a little bit, because it'll change the color of the green. And you know, when you're looking at a tree outside, it's multiple colors. It's not just one color. And it really shows because I've stamped it into the light part of the painting. So it's showing up really well here. And I'm just touching it, just kind of letting the water kind of do its thing. Just create this little tree in the background. Okay, so let's just make maybe we just make a little shadow here for it, just cause. And then let's put in a little more of this background with this little shrub. And again, just because we're going to be putting that fence in. So I want to make sure we get enough color in the background. Be careful you don't stamp over the top of that tree. You know, you don't want that hedge to come in front of that tree. All right, now that we've got this dry, I'm just going to use my twin tone and I'm going to add some detail in here into the tree. And you can also add a few more little branches in here too. You know, especially inside, you know, drag these branches out a little bit more. You know, we never want it to look like a stamped image. So we can add a little more texture like that. All right, so now what do we need to do? Let's do our little branches in the top, and that is this stamp right here. So we're going to ink this, and I'm going to turn this upside down because it's so much easier to stamp your leaves, especially when they're coming from the corner or coming from the top of the page. It's so much easier to stamp these by turning your page around. And see, this is all protected, so it doesn't matter that I stamp over, kind of over the top. And let's just do a few more in here. And you can see it just kind of sets this little house back into a kind of in a little, opening with a grove of trees around, just by putting these little leaves up in the corner. And then again, we're just kind of tapping in here with the brush. The water will just do its thing. It will do the work. And it just takes these images and just kind of blends them out a little bit and kind of gives them that watercolor look. And the second, we stamped it, once and then twice. So those light images, they kind of fade into the background. And then these darker ones, they kind of come forward. And then we have this watercolor look and this 3D look. Okay, so see how different it's looking already, you guys? It takes nothing to change these up. And even if you try to do them the same every time, they're not going to be the same. They're going to always look different. But this is cute just like it is. You wouldn't even have to do any more. You could just kind of leave it as is. All right, so let's not do that. Let's keep going. So we're going to do the little grass, and we're just going to add some green to it, and we're just going to add this little grass and just kind of tap it in. So I'm just inking a little parts of it and just tapping it in, kind of in the background. And then maybe we just want a few kind of in the foreground here too. And just going to kind of drag this color down. You don't have to add much. Always be sure to pinch your brush off. Those of you who are new on here, I say this all the time, but you want to dip your brush, pinch it off, and then add the water to your painting. Okay, so now let's go on. I think we are ready to do our foreground. I think we've got the house pretty much. Let's do the little red dots in here. And you can see I added that grass and I left a lot of space here in the white because I want to be sure that we're adding these little dots to a space that is white so that they really show up. And I'm just, tapping them in. Just tapping them in here. And, they're so small because the background, you would not see the definition of the petals of these. You're just going to see them just like this, just the color. You guys, be sure to put in the comments. Okay, I see that. Carol, you will be entered in the drawing. You'll be entered in the drawing. So if you guys want to win this, we're going to have a drawing and, we'll choose a winner and it just might be you. All right, so let's continue on here. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to do our foreground. So let me get all of these things out of my way here. And let's get back to the stamps that we're going to be using in the foreground. And mostly these three. So these little ones that have a lot of texture in the blooms, the long stem, the large vine, the grasses, and then the little daisy bunch. So we're going to start out with the daisy bunch. And we're kind of building. So, we want to see that things kind of progress to the backside. So we've got to have something in the background. If you can see a lot of white in here, see through the grasses and all of that, it doesn't look like it's progressing into the picture. It looks like it's just, in the foreground. So we're going to start out with this just to create some background. And I'm just going to ink it with my red. And you want to just stamp it in a circle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just like this. And then we'll put another one over here. And then, we'll maybe just put one over here. And maybe we'll just kind of bring this over and along, along here. Maybe we'll just put another there. So we've kind of got this, the tops of the flowers kind of going along this direction. And this is where you guys, you just got to trust the process. And then we're going to add a little bit of water to it. Just like this. So just tap it. be sure to pinch your brush off and be sure to just touch it and leave those white spaces. It's really, really important to do that. Leave those white spaces. Okay, so now once that's dry, and it should dry pretty quickly, we're going to come in now and we're going to add the grasses in here and some vines and just whatever texture things that you want to add in here. Mostly probably the grasses is sort of the filler because we're putting all of these florals in, so we want to kind of see these stems in here. So I'm just going to ink this, and I'm just going to start out by just tapping in this grass, just kind of here and there, kind of under these, flowers like this. And we'll just put some more in here. And then we're going to come in with some vines like this. And let's change up the color now. So let's go to the 177 and we'll add some vines in here. Maybe we'll just tap in, a couple up here. Maybe some like this, kind of coming in from the side. And then we're going to add some water now to it. And you can always come back in and add more of the grasses. You can always, honestly, it's pretty hard to mess this up. It really is. Don't stress over this and where you're putting all of these things, honestly, because it's going to all come together. Now I'm using a brush stroke to kind of pull the color down. But what you want to be careful of is that you don't do any cross stroke like this, because that will create the ground right here. That will create the ground. And so you want this all to just kind of, continue to come down. You don't want to see where it stops and where it's growing. This is all just tall wild grasses and wildflowers in here. And then we'll just get a little water on these little stems, little vines. Just maybe a little bit in here. Okay, and so we've just kind of filled in this whole area with grasses and a lot of stems and all of this, and we've just kind of got this red patch in here. Okay, so let's come in now with the long stems and let's do these. And so we're gonna just add the red to these. So the red bloom and then the little red bud right here. So we make sure we get enough color on here. So make sure you get enough red on that. And then we don't need a huge amount of the stem. So we're just gonna stamp this in here, just kind of like this. So just a little bit of the stem, and then just make sure you're getting enough red in here. And let's bring this one in like this, and maybe we just put another one in here. And then I'm just going to add another, just the bloom. And now we can go back and just add the water to it. And so you can see how much pigment is really on your canvas, that was on the stamp. So you're just going to touch it. You don't want to lose the integrity of the stamp here. And so I've got those long stems kind of growing out. And now we're going to come in with the small flowers. And these are the ones that we're just going to use the top part. So just the heads of the flowers. So no stem. And you want to make sure you get enough ink on here too. Just really make sure your pen is wet, and you want to ink it every time again. And you just go to town with this. Right over your reds. Especially every area that looks like it's a little lighter, you can really add those reds in there. And you just keep putting it in. This is pretty dark, and it'll stamp over, a lot of this green. And again, you can go back and add more of this too. And I'm just going right over my reds too. until you just feel like, you know what, I think I got enough. Let's just do a couple more right in here. I feel like we need. Okay. Now we're going to hit those with water. And you're just going to touch it. So you just want that color to kind of bleed out. So see how dark that color gets? You're just touching it with your brush, just touching it. All these different little areas. Just keep going. And this is where you could kind of look at it and see if you want to add any more reds in there. But isn't that just so cute? I just think these little foreground projects are they're so fun. And it will get cuter, you know, once we get the white paint in. Okay. How cute is that? All right, so are we ready to do the white paint? I think we are. We've got all of our little things in. We could do another little bit of, maybe we'll do something with this color, the 177. We'll just add a little bit more grass kind of in the background. Just in here. But you can see the difference, and it comes down to preference. You know, adding another color in here is so cute, and it will just, especially if you're using colors that are the warm colors like teals, oranges, you know, fall colors, you know, it's just so cute to add the yellow in here, but it has to be light, really light. And then here's the difference. See, this is just leaving it green and bringing that green down, but still keeping it light too, to where it just kind of fades out. Okay, so I'm going to go back in my water now, but be sure that you wash your brush out really good when you're going back to the water and the green from the red. Okay, so we can now put our little fence in. We can add our white flowers to the front and our little white blooms to the background. So let's do it. Let's do it. Let me move my palette out of the way. And I can now move this. Actually, you know what? Let's do the little balloon. Let's just do this one. So if you don't have a heart, you can do a little balloon like this. And it's so cute. So you can do it a color. So I left the one on my sample. I left it white, and then I did a red detail on it. But you could also do it just in... maybe you could just do it in the red and just leave a little highlight. You know, it's going to be darker on the bottom. So you want to just make sure that you get this area. Darker on the bottom. So we want this balloon to be pretty red. We want to go back again and just make sure that we really get that red on the bottom. Okay, so let's move this aside because we're going to come back with the white paint and do something on here. But in the meantime, we can take a pencil, and as soon as is that dry? Feels like that's dry. You're going to make some little lines that look like this. And basically that's just kind of pulling the balloon together with its little tie. And that will make it look more realistic like a little balloon. So let's move this one aside. Now let's move the palette. And let's get out the white paint. This is the fun part. Joy Ross, love how you're doing the flowers. It's so fun, Joy. You will love, you guys, you got to try this. You just got to try it. It is so fun. And if you have these stamps, use these. And if you don't, use something that you have, honestly. Okay, so now I'm cleaning up my brush really well. And I'm going to just put my brush back into the white paint with the water. I didn't pinch it off because I want to make sure that it's thin enough for what I'm going to be doing. So the paint does kind of thicken up if you haven't used it in a while. So if you add a little bit of water to it, kind of gets it thinner. So I'll just kind of mix it up, mix it up like this. And we're going to start putting in our flowers into the foreground. And this is the fun part. This is so much fun. So you're just going to put in these big blooms. And you know, the bigger ones are going to be in the foreground. And they don't have to be any specific shape. Just, you know, put in these little flowers, just like this. You could put some smaller ones, you know, in the foreground like this. And it just will bring it all together. You can have some kind of going off the edge. Let's grab some more paint. And then these, you know, that are a little farther away, you want to make sure those little blooms are smaller. And try to get this paint, you know, that's in the dark color, so that it really shows off. And you can do as many of these little white flowers as you want to. Isn't that just so cute? Okay, I think that's pretty good. I think we've got enough here. And I'm going to switch to my little brush now. So I'm going to just put my big brush in the water and switch to my little brush. And actually, I'll switch to my other water too. And we're going to do that little fence. So I want to make sure that my paint is really thin now. So I'm using the little brush here and just really thinning down my paint so that I can get a good stroke, brush stroke. And we're just going to start out with posts. So just posts that kind of look like this. And then we'll do some back here. And we'll just do the cross pieces. Just make sure that your paint is thin enough that you can paint it on like this. That's so cute. And then we can add, you know, some little flowers in here. So we've got our little red flowers, we've got our little white flowers. And we can just add a few little dots. You can go in here, I think with my original, I added some white centers to these little red flowers. Isn't that just so cute? And then, you know, if you can get your paint really thin and you can go along and just do a little highlight on the edge of the roof, that will add a lot too. Just a tiny little highlight right along the edge where the sun is just catching it. Add a little texture to the tree. like so. And then I'm going to just add a little red center now to the white flowers. But you could, again, you could do whatever color you want as for a center. You could do a yellow center. That would also be really cute. And I'm just going to use my bullet tip. But because we're doing red and white, I think we're just going to do and you know, they don't have to be perfect. It's better if they're not. Okay, I think that turned out just so cute. And let's do this one now. Let's do the little balloon. So I'm going to just use my white or my little brush. And we'll just do a little heart. And you know what? If it's not perfect, that's okay. It's totally fine because watercolor is very forgiving. You know, it's not an exact art form. Okay, so now, as soon as that's dry, let's take this off while that's drying, and let me move my water out of the way so I don't spill it. Because I can tell you that that's happened before. So now we can do the big reveal, which is so fun. And okay, do you see that little bleed through right there? We can fix that with the white paint. So let's just get a little bit of white paint. And it's just because I didn't have that tape pressed down hard enough and I got a little bleed through. But you can take your white paint and you can just brush that right off. And you never even notice. Okay, so let me clean this off. And now we can erase the pencil lines. So let's do that. Just make sure everything is dry before you take the lines off. And just erase. This is the fun part, you know, when it all comes together. Now this is still wet, so I'm going to wait on those pencil lines before I erase those. But this is where it all kind of comes together when you erase these lines, and it looks like a little painting. Okay, and we need to sign. So let me do that. And I have to do 25 now, you guys. I don't know. It's going to take me a while to get that down. See if I can remember to do that every time. All right, so now let's put our little balloon, and you can put it anywhere, you know, on here. You could even do it out here, which would also be really cute if you put it on your card. So let's put a little foam dot on here. Or maybe a couple of little foam dots. And actually, you know what? It might be kind of cute to have it just kind of going off the side. Maybe like this. Let's see. Do I want it there? Or maybe I just want it here. Maybe I want it here. Let's put it there. Isn't that just so cute? Now you can take your a gold pen or a silver pen like this, and you can make the little line coming down and the little loop. And let me just zoom in on that so you guys can see. See that little line with the silver pen? Isn't that cute? You can just add that. This would make it, so this is still Valentine's because it's got the heart on it, but you could change this up to a birthday. It would be so cute. And just change the color of the flowers, or maybe you just like the red. The red is really cute. It's really cute. Okay, so let me zoom out. Let me zoom out. And be sure to say in the comments if you would like to win this. And I will send it. Okay, so now tell me which one do you like the best? See how that double watercolor paper frames the art? It really does. It's just a really nice way to mat this onto a card. And when you're doing something like watercolor, this is the focal part, is the painting. So it doesn't need, a lot of elaborate decorations on it. Just putting it on a card is enough, because people will just set this up and display it because it's just so cute. So keep that in mind as well. So let me know which one, A or B, with the yellow or the green. So let me know in the comments. Okay, I'm going to switch over so I can say hi. Hi and bye to all of you. Thank you so much for being on with me. I hope you guys liked this project. It was really, really fun to do. And I hope you guys give it a try. It's just trust the process. You'll hear me in your ear saying that. Trust the process. Don't give up if it looks like a mess, because it does kind of look a little chaotic when you're adding all of the red flowers in and then you're adding the white on top. But putting those white blooms in just sort of fixes everything, because you can cover up anything that maybe you don't like with a big, white flower. So thanks everyone so much for being on with me. I appreciate it so much. It's just a joy to be with all of you. Hope you have a great rest of your day. And I'll see you all next week for another Watercolor Wednesday. Thanks everyone. Enjoy your day. Enjoy your weekend.